5:15 on Monday, December 11th, 2017, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Note that Councilman Dirks is absent, and we'll move to the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the November 27th meeting, approval of bills and claims, acceptance of a tobacco settlement agreement, appointment of the 2018 fire department officers, and appointments to the committees, commissions, and boards. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Space?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fleishman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Are there any oral requests and communications from the audience for things, items not on the agenda? If not, we will move to the canine recognition, and Chief Burke,
Thank
please.
you, Mayor. There's two students here, Kate Nissen and Tyler Council Dec. You guys want to come up front in the space? Last March, these students came to me along with two other ones, Tyler Tuning and Marco Kuwach, which those two cannot be here tonight, but they came to us. They wanted to do something for the community, and they're in Mrs. Base's English 10 class, and the idea that came up to raise some funds to start a K-9 program. We hadn't had a K-9 in about 10 years, so got on board with them. It wasn't something that was planned or budgeted for, so I told them it's going to be a very expensive project. It's going to take a lot of time to do. They were understanding, and they started the fundraising project. I was expecting a year, 2 years, maybe longer before we raised the funds. They did it in about 3 months. They raised so far over $24,000, and we still get money here and there coming in, mainly because of the project that these guys started. So we just want to take some time to recognize them for their hard work and get a couple photos if you can.
Oh, absolutely. Now he's not even interested. Did you get a shot?
No.
See, you're better at it.
It's like a suitcase.
He's like a rocket.
Bigger than it was a couple weeks ago. The next item is the APAI Municipal Asphalt Paving Program Award, and Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for letting us follow the dog. On November 30th, the Asphalt Paving Association of Iowa presented their 2017 Municipal Paving Program Award to the City of Carroll, to also JEO Consulting Group and Tri-State Paving, the contractor on our projects. The Asphalt Paving Association of Iowa is a statewide association that promotes the use of asphalt, and it's primarily, the membership is comprised of asphalt associated contractors, producers, consulting engineers, and their paving program award is given for a yearly asphalt program that significantly benefits the community in which it was. We did submit our High Ridge Road and 3rd Street projects, and they were the award winners for this year. We have with us tonight representatives of JEO Consulting Group, Cody Forch and Alicia Markinson, and also a representative of Tri-State Paving, Russ Schrader. So if you guys want to come up, I think you may want to recognize him. And this is the award.
Thanks for the engineering department.
You can hold it. And I think I go to the board.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the outside agencies fiscal year 19 funding request. And the first item we have is Chamber of Commerce, and Sarah, please. Oh, Steve, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I
Sorry.
didn't realize you were back there too.
I'm here for emotional support.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Mr.
You
Mayor.
bet, Sarah.
City
Thank you.
Council. As the Mayor already mentioned, my name is Sarah Foley. I'm the Program Director with the Carroll Chamber of Commerce, and with me tonight is Steve Blackburn. He is our 2018 incoming board president. As you know, over the last several years, the Carroll City Council has graciously supported the Chamber's tourism marketing plan with an annual support of in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $22,000 annually. Those dollars have assisted us in marketing the Carroll community across the state, both at Iowa Welcome Centers, in publications, broadcast, online, and at events and showcases. As in the past, this year the Chamber of Commerce would like to ask for the city's support again for our tourism marketing campaign. However, as you noticed, this year we are asking for a bit of an increase for an additional one-time increase in support of a broader reaching campaign, bringing our total ask to $34,500. Recently, as we hope you've noticed, the Chamber has launched a Choose Carroll campaign. This is designed to be a broad-reaching campaign targeting multiple audiences with the overall goal of encouraging them to choose Carroll for shopping, retail, dining, as well as education, healthcare, employment, and even to we'd like to extend that this year to our tourism marketing campaign and encourage them to choose Carroll for their travel too. In the coming year, we look to incorporate Choose Carroll into our tourism marketing efforts. We'd like to encourage travelers to choose Carroll for their staycations as well as their day trips. In doing so, we'll target two key audiences. We'll target leisure travelers and Iowans looking for 2 to 3 day stays. As our marketing statistics show, the general stay for most Iowans choosing to do a staycation is 3.1 nights. We'll also target visitors who may be regional, which by regional we are looking at those who live within a 55-mile or less radius of Carroll. As we target both groups, We're hoping to improve upon past efforts and refine our messaging so that we fully understanding that we don't have the sandy beaches or seaside getaways that we can offer travelers. Rather, we'd like to focus on Carroll's amenities, shopping, dining, our lodging options, recreation options, and more. We plan to work directly with local businesses to utilize similar messaging, multiplying our efforts and our reach. We'd like to take a concentrated look at offering Carroll as a destination for businesses and meetings. And lastly, we'll work to create specific day and weekend itineraries for our visitors, from sip and savor tours to recreational days in our community. As you've seen, this year we're asking for an increase in support for our marketing efforts. We anticipate that increase being a one-time increase specifically to target the regional day trip audience and establish Carroll as a marketing hub. Similar to last year, we plan to utilize the $22,000 as we have in the past for our statewide tourism marketing efforts. The one-time additional $12,500 will target a campaign to build Carroll as a regional hub. Specifically, those funds would be used for additional paper, broadcast, and cable media purchases in the region. The Chamber works hard to promote our community and drive additional traffic into our retailers, dining establishments, and more through programs such as Band Day and Hoop It Up. Just looking at Hoop It Up, last year we had 90 teams brought into our community over 2 days. That's 90 teams, 10 players each, plus their family and friends coming into Carroll, staying at our hotels and motels, dining in our restaurants, and shopping at our retailers. Supporting these efforts with increased marketing builds the quality of image that we'd like to portray to visitors, potential employees, and more. Mr. Mayor and City Council, I'd like to request $22,000 of support from the City of Carroll to continue the Chamber's statewide tourism marketing. I'd also like to request an additional $12,500 for a one-time, year-long regional Choose Carroll campaign for a total of $34,500. Thank you.
Sarah, I ask a similar question every year.
Yes.
I went through, this afternoon, I ran across Joe's presentation from last year, Joe Rossiter, and everything was pretty similar. I always ask about the investment in print medium, and the print medium over last year's, according to Joe's handout, went up over $10,000. Did you see, I'm sure you analyze what we're all investing in. Could you explain what drove that decision? Or I'm sure prices went up. He gave us an itemized list of what everything cost last year. I just wondered why the $10,000 increase in print when so much is digital.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different things that went into those numbers. The total in the request that I've asked for is the $34,500, so it's the combined. We did analyze last year's spend, and we did eliminate a few things. There were a few one-time purchases that we eliminated because we didn't entirely feel that they gave us the reach and frequency that we needed. And by reach and frequency, I mean we wanted to appear in front of multiple audiences repeatedly so that they remembered, they had that memory of us. We did incorporate some of those regional purchases into that media buy. So when you see that it's a 10,000 increase, a lot of that is the additional 12,500 that goes to speak to the regional marketing. There was also, as you mentioned, increases in ad rates this year over last year, as does happen.
Right. Well, I guess you subscribe to the Iowan and the Our Iowa magazine, and from last year, looking at the cost, they're very expensive, thousands of dollars for like 6 issues. And I guess, do you see that you're gaining a benefit from those two? I know I asked Joe the same question last year. Since there are only 6 issues in a year, and I just am curious. Are those really are there a large number of subscribers Is that what you see?
There is a large number of subscribers. Additionally, for both of those magazines, a great part of their audience is females in that 35 to 50-year range, which is exactly generally who statistics show plans, does a lot of the vacation planning, so that's obviously a key audience for us to hit. Now, one of those magazines actually this year is going down from 6 publications in a year to 4. And then likewise, transversely, their ad rates are adjusting to cover that change. But we do feel that those magazines are a good purchase for us because those magazines go to the audience that we want, and typically they're the audience that's researching places to go in Iowa, places that have the interest that they're looking for, and they generally hold on to those publications. They're not just a people magazine, so to speak, where they toss it every week. They hold on to them and they really use them to research what they're looking for when they plan an Iowa destination trip.
And they are not digital at all. I mean, they're pure I mean, you can go online and subscribe.
Right.
But they are not online at all. So you're saying this,
They do have a
Group.
little bit of a social media presence.
okay. Well, thank you very much.
That dovetailed very nicely. Would you tell us a little bit about your social media campaign and how it's going to be changing for the coming year, please?
So we've already gone ahead and we've reserved the Visit Carroll Facebook page. And we're also looking at Visit Carroll and Choose Carroll website domains, which are both currently available, and we are working on securing for the future before anybody else can, obviously. So we plan on utilizing all of those platforms to land on a page that highlights Carroll tourism. And in your packets, you each received a screenshot of what that page would look like. We've already kind of gone ahead and started building that page. And we plan on that page creating a lodging guide, dining guide, as well as some specific itineraries for both day travelers and staycationers. One of the best ways to hit some of our travelers is to give them experiences that they can't get anywhere else, whether that's a day sip and savor tour through Carroll or, a day-long recreation event day in Carroll, where in the morning they're at the municipal golf course and in the afternoon they're experiencing our bike trails. So we really want to use the social media platforms to tell that story. As Carolyn pointed out, print media can be expensive, but social media is a great way to build a grassroots campaign and help tell your story.
Thank you.
There's probably no way to gauge from a statistics perspective how well your print media get a response back on how well that works. Are you getting your money's worth? That Facebook, I know that our office does that, and you can get statistics of who's clicking on it or individuals that are going there, so you can kind of have an idea of what you're getting digitally. But
if I may, it just generally, when we're talking about marketing in general, you're right. It can be difficult to quantify some of those things. You had asked about the print media. To throw out a radio term, that's the difference between just frequency and penetration. It's one thing to have a lot of frequency, but those specific print medias we're talking about have very good penetration into what we're trying to achieve with the demographics, and it can be difficult to quantify. The issue is, though, that it is important in a larger campaign, which is what we're proposing the increase for, to have that presence both in the print, in social media as well. Even though it's hard to quantify, it is still a very important step in a larger campaign, for sure. Having the presence in general, I should say.
any other questions for Sarah or Steve? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take this, I think this goes to the budget process then too. And then our next one is the Carroll Area Development Corporation in Shannon. Please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. In front of you, you should have your packets for our financial request for CADC for your 2019 fiscal year. Just really quickly thought that I would run through a few of the things that we feel we've accomplished in 2017 and also talk to our efforts leading into 2018. Our request, as is noted, is $72,000 $250, which is an increase of just under 2%. In past years, we've had a little bit higher increase. We're trying to be very conservative with our efforts, and we feel like we've done a good job of implementing some of the programs that we've set out to. And so I'll just jump into what we did in 2017. One of our primary areas of focus right now is workforce, and there is absolutely not an answer to that, but a lot of answers and efforts that go into that project. We decided that we needed to work with a consultant, Janet 80 of 80 Advantage. She had been out here in the fall and did a presentation about the workforce conditions she sees in Carroll County. And essentially, working with her was a talent strategy effort to really focus on bringing together the education sector, the private sector, resource providers such as myself, bring everyone around the table and start to talk about what everyone's already doing, where those gaps are going to be, and where we need our workforce to be looking at 10 and 15 years down the road. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of efforts along the way that are in place, and we just want to be very comprehensive to make sure that we're hitting on every age from our school children through those that are nearing retirement that we'd like to see stay in the workforce as long as we can keep them. Our efforts with Janet, we just have recently gotten back our strategy list, so we go back to committee to start kind of laying out those action plans. Also, we are continuing our housing contacts and efforts. In our Partners in Progress piece that was included, you can see that as we've been monitoring the housing activity, we have seen an increase in both single-family, multi-family housing projects throughout the county. So we feel like we're doing some good things there and trying to make some progress. We also, we've done some work with our business recruitment efforts, but we feel like in order to really get some solid looks from our site consultants, we can't just have a site or a couple sites or buildings. We really have to work on our inventory. And it's not just about having an available site, but it's about a ready site, and not necessarily certification, but prepared with utilities, everything outlined, so that when a business does take a good hard look at Carroll County, we are ready to go. We can tell them what we have to offer. We did bring in a consultant that is within the IT and data industry to come out and take a look at what we have to offer. Meet with our local telecommunications company, take a look at our sites, and really try to identify how Carroll stacks up. And we do fairly well. We have a pretty strong fiber and electric infrastructure with our sites that we have to offer. And of course, business retention, that is a great share of our time because we feel like that's the most important way to keep and retain jobs and our businesses. So in 2017, we did update a few of our business visits, but this year will be our full retention expansion program, visiting approximately 35 businesses throughout the county to really get a feel for what they're dealing with and help to understand what we can do to help them reach their goals, and also to take a look at where our programming needs to lie. Otherwise, we still partner with Western Iowa Advantage. They do the Employer Educator Summit in the fall. We had about 200 in attendance again this year. We do some trade show work through them, and also we're starting to do a little bit more on the small business development side. And with small business, we still partner with the North Central Iowa Small Business Development Center. Kimberly Tiefenthaler is now the director for our region, and excellent move. We do have her office located here at the Region 12 office in Carroll. So she is able to be a little bit more present in Carroll than we had in the past, and it's going really well. Otherwise, we did get our website updated to have a little more modern look and feel. We have some additional modules for those that are looking for sites and buildings to try to make that process a little bit easier. And we continue to study where technology is taking us. At a recent conference last week, the focus really, it was site selection, but we talked a ton about the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, smart cities, and automation. And, as we've talked about the urban-rural divide sometimes with government or with programming, I think that you're going to see that happen even more as the technology becomes more prevalent. So again, we're just so thankful for the fiber infrastructure we have in place to help take our city to the next level, but it's also really important to tell that story as we look at site selection as well. So those are kind of a few highlights of what we feel we've accomplished and are going to continue working on in 2018. So I'd open it for any questions you might have.
And you touched about, maybe I took it the wrong way, but were you talking like an industrial park area?
Not necessarily a park, but we really need to understand what our assets are. You know, part of the site selection process, it's happening faster and faster. I'm going to age myself a bit, But when I started 12 years ago in the field, we would have 2 weeks to respond to a project. Now 24 hours is about all we got. And a good share of that work, that research is done on a website before, that's how we know if we can even compete. We don't know who's looking at us, we just can't. So, it really is about being ready, the control, having those ownership or options available, knowing our infrastructure set up and plan in our permitting processes. We just need to make sure that if someone takes a good look, we're really ready. So.
The expert you hired, when was this?
She started in July, but she was here in Carroll in September to
Okay.
do a presentation.
And who did she present to? Just
We invited CDC board, elected officials, and we did also include several of our manufacturing and private investment partners.
okay, so she's offered advice to you. Have you utilized anything yet?
We're just getting through the study. We got back the draft of the actionable items in the last few weeks. Our committee hasn't had time to meet yet. But the way we intend to conclude with that is to bring her back out so everyone has the chance to hear the research that was done, hear her perspective on the conversations that we held, and then, what her suggestions are going forward. And what I like about bringing in someone from outside, she's absolutely an industry expert, but along with that, she can speak to examples of other communities that have had similar conditions, so she can really make strong recommendations for us.
Any other questions for Shannon? Thank you very much, Shannon. I
Yes.
appreciate your time.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
I have one question amongst the council, and it's just basically an idea. These were the only two that requested increases, correct? Correct. Do you guys want to hear from the remainder that haven't asked for increases? Is that something that you guys would like to have the remainder come in?
I think we're familiar, we're okay.
I
Okay.
agree, I'm comfortable with the reports.
The only one that I would be is maybe Laverne.
Oh, yeah.
So, but we can work on with Laverne if everybody else is okay. I mean, he's pretty quick with stuff, so.
And he sat through the budget process, so he's been with.
That's right, he did come on, yeah. So he heard some of those last year, so, okay. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is ordinances. And the first item is Northridge 4th Subdivision, Phase 3, and Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The owner of the Northridge 4th Subdivision Phase 3, Roman Steffes and Sons Construction, has completed the public improvements in the subdivision. The improvements include sanitary sewer, water main, and roadway on 10th Street, Woodland Drive, Northridge Drive, and Roman Road. The improvements have been reviewed for acceptance and assumption of future maintenance and repair. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend acceptance by motion of the public improvements and passage and approval of the grade ordinance on the streets.
This ordinance needs 3 readings, correct?
The ordinance.
Yes. When, are they wanting to get this started their earliest convenience, or do they have a start date or anything?
Well, they're complete. It's
Okay.
any time. This is the city's, or our acceptance of the improvements. And then we'll begin caring for them, first of all, probably snow plowing.
Okay.
And I think they'd like to have us do that.
Okay. Any other questions for Randy? If not, I will need a motion to accept the public improvements in the Northridge 4th Subdivision, Phase 3, for future maintenance and repairs, subject to the provisions of the maintenance bonds.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Bailey?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then I will need a motion to approve the ordinance establishing grades on 10th Street.
Do you want to waive
Waive.
anything?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say that at the end, but, okay.
Give him time, Mark.
Just kidding there. Somebody else want to make the motion? Waive the first three readings establishing the grades on 10th Street, Woodland Drive, North River Ridge Drive, and Roman Road.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to waive all three readings. Seaman?
Yes.
Cobb?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Fleshner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
What would we do without Miss Laura to keep us in line?
And now a motion to adopt the
To
ordinance.
motion to
Yes.
adopt the
Motion to
ordinance.
adopt.
Second.
Yes.
There's a motion to adopt the ordinance. Cobb?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is Chapter 47.05 Park Regulations, and Jack.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, we have an ordinance in front of you to consider a change to ordinance 47-05 Park Regulations. Basically, the parks right now close at midnight, and people need to remain out of the parks until 6 a.m. And about 8 weeks ago, probably a little bit longer, both Brad and I have had conversations with some of the residents, specifically Northeast Park, about some issues really related, with the help of the police to investigate and to try to control some of those situations in the park. And we had asked them to present this to the Parks and Rec Board, what they, some of their concerns and what they'd like to see. And from 2 meetings, we had one in November and another one in December. We gave the Parks and Rec Board asked to have some time to consider what was presented on the November meeting. And they came back just last week with this recommendation to the council. I think it was a 7-0 vote to look at, instead, the shelter houses would still close at midnight. Parks, all the parks except for Northeast would close at 11 p.m. and Northeast Park would close at 10 p.m. All parks, all shelter houses would reopen at 6 a.m. And this would be year-round. There was discussion, I'm looking at some other options, but this is what would be recommended to the council for consideration tonight. I did research about 5 or 6 different cities. 11 was pretty common. I believe 1 was 9:30. So really in between those times.
Can you elaborate on what's going on? I mean, why all of a sudden there's a concern to change our hours? These hours have been in place for how many years? So is there a specific concern that maybe could be remedied?
There was at Northeast Park, and that I would say been taken care of. But some of the residents still hear people in the park later at night. Some of their concerns was heavier traffic, vehicle traffic into some of the parks later at night. So I think the residents that live directly behind or next to the parks are the ones that see the issues. And the ones that Graham Park, maybe not as much, Mission Park, maybe not as much, there's the one that lives directly connected to the park that we get much issues from.
In about 13 years as Parks and Rec Director, this is really the first complaint about the hours.
So if you, I'm reading here that you want to close at 11. Shelter houses remain open until midnight. I don't see a reference to the parks being open, unless I'm missing this, that the parks need to be open so you can access the shelter houses that are open till midnight.
Right.
I don't see it worded that way in here.
Okay, sure. It would be my belief that they would be able to remain inside the shelter house until midnight. They could be in the park.
So you're saying that no one could enter the park, but people that were there can remain until midnight? If the shelter house is open till midnight, then why isn't the park open till midnight? I guess that's my question.
So there's another activities, tennis courts, the lights would shut off at 11, playground equipment, really, it's pretty dark in the parks at that time, but people just can't be driving and parking in some of the areas of the park past 11.
All right, did you want to add something, Jeff?
The discussion that we had regarding that at these meetings, and I think you're talking about the enclosed shelter houses, not all of the shelter houses.
Only the enclosed as I read it.
Yeah, enclosed would be covered.
The discussion essentially was that if people had legitimately reserved and rented the enclosed shelter houses for purposes of whatever, family reunions, things like that, that they would be able to use those. One of the reasons the Northeast Park was pushed down to a lower number, some of the activities that have been happening the last few years involve illegal activities, and one of the reasons for that is the entrance is extremely secluded in the summer months, especially when there's corn in the field to the north. If you've gone up there at all, the drive is at the end of a dead-end street, and then once they're in there, they're covered from the north by cornfields and to the south by some very, very large evergreens. And some of the neighbors have seen drug deals taking place there. I live immediately adjacent to the playground equipment that's in the park. And the first meeting that we had in November, I got home about 6:30, and there are no lights whatsoever in that park, other than a street light that is in the parking lot, and then there's one the lights in the shelter house, which I think Scott shuts off in November. Is that right, Jack?
Yes.
That particular night.
So that parking lot, I'm sorry, that parking lot light is no longer on after November?
I think it's the shelter house.
Just the shelter house light?
Now, that particular night at that meeting, the street light was off in the parking lot, and there were no lights in the shelter house, and there's not a light. It's a 10-acre park.
Right.
It goes from 12th Street to Capistrano. There's not a light in it. And that particular night, there was no moon, and from my house, I couldn't see the playground equipment that's 75 feet away. So part of my concern, it's a small part, is somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to walk in front of a swing or whatever. More importantly, what we're seeing is people are using that park because it's secluded and out of the way to do drug deals, to pick up beer in the wooded area that's in the back of the park. I saw you walking around there a couple of days ago. Oh, yeah, they said that they didn't know that. So,
we're not worried about him. If he falls down, don't worry about it.
I was going to stick the bulldog on him. What they do, or they used to do, I guess I don't know if they're still doing it, kids, for one, would hide beer in the wooded area for somebody, and then somebody else would come pick it up later.
Sounds like my backyard.
And so some of the things that we talked about at the park meeting were plowing the trees down, the wooded area, to take away that.
Yeah.
Or, regardless, putting up some type of lighting there that, one, it would make it safer, and two, it would be a deterrent for people that are doing things they shouldn't be back there. When it's open till midnight, a lot of times, if we had our windows open, we'd hear, they're not just talking back there, they're back there hooting and hollering and whatever. And it's so dark you can't even see them. And I know that the neighbor to the south of me has a hot tub, and she gets concerned because she'll be in the hot tub with her daughter or whoever and hear all these people but can't even see them because it's so dark back there. So our hope originally was that it would be sunrise to sunset, with the exception of the shelter house. And then we came up with the compromise of the 10 o'clock discussion. And like I say, those of you that have been to the park, and I would strongly encourage you to go up there, and I don't know if the moon's out tonight, but if there's no moon, it's dangerous to walk around the park. It just is. There's not a light anywhere near the playground equipment.
And then that light that's there is on the north side of the trees, and so once you walk beyond those trees into the shelter house, it's pitch black till you see the Swan House lights, but
right.
Yeah, it is black. It is dark back there. I agree.
Well, and we've talked about a number of things. One, we've talked about starting a neighborhood watch group, because right now the neighbors are the ones who call the police when they see these things happening. And if nothing else, posting a sign that says neighborhood watch, or I've just bought cameras for my house. I'm gonna put one facing that direction. If we could put a sign up that says, these
Under surveillance.
grounds are under
Yeah.
surveillance, which most of them aren't gonna be, especially if I'm the one buying the cameras, but to some extent they will be. Because every little bit helps as far as a deterrent. If they know they're being watched, the police have been very good. A couple of the officers walk up there regularly. I know Justin trains the dog there quite a bit, and used to bring his other dog there when he had that dog. That people know the police are coming up there, so it's helped a little bit. But now that I'm home during the daytime, I see people up there, and I know that doesn't matter as far as the closing time, but a lot of weird things happen there because it's so far out of the way and you just can't see it.
It's a very secluded park.
It is.
It has just that one entrance. Maybe we could get you a golf cart with a red light on top. Could
Not a
control
bad
the
idea.
park. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it, Jeff. I guess I mean, I'll throw this out there. I mean, I hate to get this, change the ordinances, because I went out there and I looked. The other thing that I knew that was on the agenda was Kellen's Kingdom, and I also knew Miracle Field. And I looked out there, all of a sudden it's like, this is an open area for something along this line. And now all of a sudden, now you're gonna put some lights in there, there's gonna be activity, there'd be people there that maybe this wouldn't necessarily be needed. Because I think that would clear that up. You'd have a lot more activity, you'd have probably legal activity, people that are wanting to use that sort of thing. I don't know, I'll just throw that out there, because
We talked about that at the meeting last week.
Did you? Okay. I mean, I just looked at all the space out there. Yes, there's some trees. I did see that go and some grass, but I was walking around in the grass, and I don't know if there were people laying in that grass or deer. I didn't see any deer dropping, so I mean, your guess is as good as mine what they're doing out there.
Our hope is someday to have a trail on the east side of the park.
Right, and I think we were talking about having that come down that road at one time or another. We've got it out there that would increase traffic through there and kind of keep whatever else illegal activity from occurring.
Could give us an opportunity for some additional lighting as well.
Right,
And not just
right.
with the two projects you mentioned, but alongside the trail perhaps, or even the east side of that park to backlight.
Criminals are gonna probably be in the, dark. They're not gonna be on the light. And I guess police officers can attest to that maybe more than I can, but I'm not a criminal, so I don't know. Nothing I'm aware of, but.
I think my concern, I'll just say, would be that while I understand what you guys are saying and your concerns, I would agree with, but, I mean, if we have people that are doing illegal activity at 8, 10, 9, whatever time of night, and you say you're closing it at 10, either way, if they're doing illegal activity, you can write them a ticket. It doesn't really matter what time it is, correct?
Correct.
So whatever's illegal is illegal. I'm not sure I understand closing the park at 10 would stop that. I still think you're going to have people going in there. It's a public place. I mean, I don't know. I don't want it to happen either, but what's illegal is illegal, and you can write the ticket no matter what.
Or arrest them.
Right. So I'm just not sure that this stops that. I think the light is the way to go, and I think making it probably a more public park is the way to go. Let's have more going on up there so that this doesn't happen.
Is this something that maybe we could revisit I guess if discussions fall through with such as the Kellen's Kingdom and the Miracle Park, trying to keep those together, I think that's an idea.
Can we get light up there?
Can we get lights up there?
Can we
you know?
revisit it after that?
Right, and if we're still having some issues,
I just hate to see different times at different parks throughout different areas in town.
I concur on that. That does concern me as well for confusing people.
which park am I in and what time?
Yeah, because I don't think we have any signage posted, and I don't know, we want to go down that road and post some signs either. And one of the things we could do with the trees, if that's a true issue, well, rather than cut them down, trim them, the bottom branches and stuff, so they're higher off the ground, so you can't congregate immediately underneath them and be hidden. I think there's a few things that we could do to definitely make the situation a little better up there.
And right, with the weather changing, I don't think you're gonna see a whole lot of people out there going around as it gets colder anyway, but I guess is this something that we can, some of these other deterrents that we can come up with, if those fail, maybe then we can come back to this? Is that
Absolutely.
something we
That's
can
the
do?
direction you want to go.
Do you need a motion to table this until other avenues are looked at first, or?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say table it.
table it. I have a motion to table this agenda item until other deterrents are dismissed, for lack of better verbiage.
Can we put a time that we might come back around and revisit it, just so we don't lose sight of it down the road, Mr. Mayor?
That's fine, I'll accept that as a amendment. You want 6 months?
How about 3?
3 months, okay.
So just so I'm clear, as I'm sure my neighbors are going to ask me, in the intervening 3 or 6 months, whatever you decide, are you going to try to put lights in, or what's happening?
I think what we would like to do is take a look and see if those are options. Like I say, I think if you start increasing usage there, and we have another presentation coming forward tonight, I'd like to hear some of those ideas first and maybe get a feel for maybe where we are going with 2 other items that, maybe some of this would just take care of itself too. And if it doesn't, then we can always come back and get this done.
But I think that's fine and very reasonable. I just want to be able to
Correct.
relay what the situation was. 'Cause
Yes.
this has been going on for a couple of years now, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. So, but I think you're right. I think if there was more activity going on up there and/or lights, that would help it to some extent. And then if the trail ever goes in on the east side, it's just more visibility.
And if that trail comes in like we had been asking about, coming down through 12th Street into there, I think that definitely, the way I see people using it up there by St. John's now, it just was a tremendous amount of usage. And then you start pulling people up from that neighborhood down along Amy, Capistrano, Northridge, or High Ridge and all that, Rolling, all those down there. You start pulling people up into that area, we're going to probably have to light it up somewhere along the line too, because it is dark back there. I agree with you. I was there, I think it was like 3:30 in the afternoon, and it just, not very cloudy. It was cloudy and just dismal. And I was up there, I think the Friday before, about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and if that street light's not on, it's pitch black back there. So.
I think we've got a chance to have some really good things come together that may coalesce around Northeast Park, and that's where I'd just like the extra time to see what comes together and research it a little bit more, Jeff.
Thank you for your patience, Jeff. I guess we didn't realize that this was that's been going on this long either, but I think some other deterrents, if we can get those done first and they say increase the usage, I would love to see that first.
I'm guessing the police are probably getting tired of, they're getting a lot of calls,
Okay. All right.
Can I say one thing? In reference to Clay's comment, 3 months really doesn't give us a lot of time to look at getting the lights added.
Sorry.
When you mentioned that, I was thinking July 1 would be, we'll get into the season a little bit to see if some of those things are helping in the park. The parks will be opened up again, and we can, evaluate it. I'm happy to bring it 3 months, but there's probably not gonna
Don't
be
know if you're going to get much progress.
I don't expect progress. I just don't want it to fall off the radar.
Yeah, if
I
we
want
already
progress.
got 3 months, we may need to decide that we need to.
And then we can just get an update from you, Jack.
Okay.
So that you're, making sure that we're doing that, and if we have to get it 3 more months, but, I would certainly like to see it by July. Like I said, I think if we get more information tonight too, from some other items, so.
We have a somewhat natural deterrent over these next 3 months too in the weather.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll help to minimize some of it.
Unless I hear objection, we'll bring it back just as a report.
That sounds fine. That's good.
Okay.
Okay. Can you repeat the motion again?
Do you have a motion?
There is none.
Something along these lines, but I'll figure it out
What if-
tomorrow. But basically, you're tabling the discussion for about 3 months.
Yes.
To allow time to explore other deterrents. other options.
Do you want something better than that, Laura?
Motion to table for 3 months.
There you go. Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. And if you have questions, Jeff, please call. The next item is resolutions, and our first resolution this evening is covering the streetlight change. And Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following receipt of a request for an additional stoplight at the intersection of Main Street and Anthony, the location was reviewed and found to conform to the council's street lighting policy. We've prepared a resolution for the addition of the street light at a cost of $7.28 per month. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend approval of the resolution adding the street light.
I'd move that we approve the resolution covering street lighting changes for Main Street and Anthony Street.
I've got one question before we move on to that. Randy, in here in the proposed resolution, it's down $43.68. I'm assuming that's just because that $7.28 is through the rest of this budget cycle?
Fiscal year.
Okay.
Right.
I'll second that motion then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Bates?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next resolution is change the December 26th council meeting to December 18th. And Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, at the last meeting, Council tabled action on discussion with the Library City Hall with anticipation that OPM architects would be at this meeting. With OPM, they were unable to attend this evening. Additionally, we had one council member that was not going to be able to attend. We did talk with all council members in OPM, and December 18th does work. The mayor did set that as a special meeting for the council, but in discussions with staff and reviewing the agenda for December 26th, it was a light agenda, and we are recommending that we actually move the December 26th meeting to December 18th, and we would not have that meeting. It would put 3 weeks between meetings, but that happens twice a year as it is right now, and I think most people would like the day after Christmas not to be a meeting. So our recommendation is you approve the resolution moving the meeting from December 26th to December 18th. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can we get budget books before that?
No, there's
It's got 3 weeks to, no, okay. That's the only question I had, thank you.
I'd move that we approve the resolution to change the regular city council meeting from December 26, 2017 to December 18, 2017.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Thank you. We will move to reports, and our first report this evening is the Miracle Field presentation, and Jack, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we have Representatives John Heim and Joel Lundstrom here to present this idea that was presented to the Parks and Rec Cultural Board, and it came with favorable vote to have the council consider this as another amenity to our wonderful city and our parks program. So I would open up with that. They'll come up and give you some more specific information. I did attach a picture. The picture shows Sioux City. I drove up there Monday morning, took some pictures. I have a lot more pictures and an aerial of their Miracle Field. This would be similar in the aspect of the field and possibly some playground equipment. The council and I'll ask the Tigases after this presentation just to give an update on where they're at as far as fundraising and that, and I can give you some time frame on the playground equipment also. There's really no action on the playground equipment to take tonight, but I think John and Joel would just like to see if there is support from the council in this project of having a Miracle Field. Right now you have $50,000 in hotel motel tax for the playground, the playground equipment, and they've fundraised that, and we need to pick a location. We've had discussions on that, and we can bring that back another day to finalize the location on the playground. And I guess second would be if you are in support of a Miracle Field, do they go together? Do they go in the same park? And if so, which parks are you looking at? Mayor mentioned probably the leading area as far as staffing. We've kind of liked out at the youth sports complex, baseball field out there with the other baseball fields, but we do have some concerns with parking and making sure everything fits out there. Would be some of the city's concerns. I know the Tiggises have other concerns if the playground is out north of the golf course area. So I guess I'd invite Joel and John to come up, and I will share these pictures with you while they present their ideas.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you guys for your time. We also have Pat and Ally Tigas with us from Kellen's Kingdom. To give you guys an idea of the spirit of this project, I called Pat and Ally after I saw in the paper that Kellen's Kingdom was go forward and they were real close to their fundraising goal. I was involved with Miracle League in Des Moines when I lived there, my wife and I, and had just a tremendous experience personally with my involvement in that. And I called them out of the blue, not knowing them not knowing me, asking if these two projects could go together. And our number one goal from the start was that we don't slow down Kellen's Kingdom. They've done a phenomenal job in a very short period of time, raising a lot of money to put this playground in for their son, and many, many others to enjoy. Our thoughts were, if we could do the projects in tandem, it would be just a huge victory. There's many, many reasons for that. You know, doing some research and getting a lot of information from Miracle League, these fields draw from up to 100 miles away. And, you know, kind of our selfish intent as residents of Carroll and business owners is that we'll bring people here to our community on the weekends to play in leagues. You know, if I have a kid with special needs and I bring them to Carroll and I get to play a baseball game, how incredible of an experience that would be. I would assume, like every other kid, not only mom and dad come, but grandma and grandpa, aunts, uncles, siblings to stay in our community for the day, not only to play their game, but to also enjoy a playground that they probably don't have in their local community. We've had many meetings with Jack. He's been very supportive of the project, as have Parks and Rec. You know, our ask really of the city council this evening is to approve our project. You know, I guess we're not really looking for a definitive space yet. I don't think we've been able to overlay enough information at the different locations that are possible to decide which park would be best or the scope of the project. But for us to go out in the community and write grants and start fundraising, we've made a lot of calls, we've looked at a lot of different grants, and quite frankly, we can't do much until the city council approves the project. So a lot of these grants need to be written, you know, in January for the next funding year. So we have looked at many different locations, and there's been a lot of different ones thrown out, and I think we're open to some of the suggestions. Obviously, would hope that the city council would rely on the experiences of those using the park, namely those with kids with special needs, to get their input on what difficulties they may have as far as locations go, getting in and out, parking, to really make this park something special for Carroll. Any of my contingents have anything to add?
I think the one thing that we've all discussed is just because we're doing all the fundraising through the Kellen's Kingdom 501c3, if it doesn't work at this time to find the perfect place to put the two of them together, that we can put Kellen's Kingdom up in Grand Park or Southside Park, and then we have no problem fundraising or finding more grant money to raise money for another park, maybe even a year down the road after the field goes in. We don't want to hinder putting Kellen's Kingdom in a perfect spot where it's going to get utilized. Like Jack threw out the not called Little League fields, but the little
Youth sports
complex. Youth sports complex.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that it's really windy. As a parent who had a child that is in special needs that had soccer out there, it wasn't a whole lot of fun to go out there because of just that aspect of it. The parking is horrible, and parking is something that we do want to take into consideration with this. But the other thing too is if it's out there, our fear is that it's not going to be used like the field we want it to be. We also want this to be the field that you have your neighbors come together to pick up a game of kickball or, you know, this field isn't just gonna be used just for the leagues. We'd like to see an adult league get started, not just for kids, but for adults. We want this used, and I think that finding the perfect location is the key to making that happen.
And something else, you know, Miracle League is an organization, there's about 300 fields total in North America. There's 9 in Iowa. The closest ones to us are Sioux City, and Ames has not begun their build yet, but they are on their list. So we feel like for the western side of the state, we really feel in a really good geographical location for that. Something else to make mention, how the Miracle League works is they pair a kid with special needs with an adult or another person on a buddy system. So they help with the batting, the running of bases, the fielding of balls. So it's really an experience for not just kids with special needs, but those that want to volunteer their time. And we really feel like it's a pretty incredible project to bring to Carroll to mesh the two together and really create something special. You should have a one-pager that explains a little bit about the project. We recently received, how many pages did you say that book is? About 1,500?
It's about that big.
The Miracle League provides renderings, I guess as much data as you would care to know, and we're still digesting that as it showed up Saturday morning. So, questions that the council has that we could answer for you?
I get mine, I'll start, because I think what I'm having trouble with is, do you guys want both of them together, or do you want them separated? Does it make any difference? I think to move, moving forward, you guys have done, Pat, you guys have done so much fundraising, and the idea was to get it started 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to keep pushing you guys down the road and,
That's kind of becoming a concern.
Yeah.
When John talked to me, that was his number one concern, we don't do that. But when you start looking at this, and talking with Jack and some things like that, you don't want to lose the focus of Kellen's Kingdom, because this would be a really great complex to have. And I guess, as we've had the conversations, that becomes the worry, is that, we talked about Grand Park, then we talked about Southside Park, then we talked about the Not Little League complex, then we talked about Northside Park, now we're talking Northeast Park. The time frame to get everything figured out is starting to slow that process down.
Right.
Mike had offered the suggestion that if we got him the dimensions of the ball field, the park and things like that, they could overlay it in some locations. Ally and I took the opportunity to kind of drive around and start looking at some of these. And then it opens up your mind to like Northside Park. You've got a motel right next to it. There's the possibility that, coming down from that upper parking area, you could make a sledding hill. It could become now a complex if it was there. But the concern goes back to, we've got the money sitting there, we're ready to go with Kellen's Kingdom. So if it becomes restrictive on that, we'd like to work with Mike and everybody to maybe lay a complex system out. Go ahead with Kellen's Kingdom somewhere. And then start working on this. We'll get back, into the fundraising. We're going to help with Miracle Field anyway. And that was the intent of Kellen's Kingdom originally anyway, is we get this one done, and then we pick another location and we start on that. We know that we're not going to be able to raise $115,000 in 6 months like we just did.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got a couple of years to focus on some grants, to do some a major fundraising a year, it's feasible to think that you could raise $30,000 or $40,000 in a year's time. And if you do that in 2 years, now you've got another park ready to go in, so we could add something to the Miracle Field in a couple of years. But that is our hugest concern now, is we don't want it to
My concern was when I was told about this and going to Southside Park, I could see one or both, one there or the other there. But that park is so isolated in one block in that specific part of town that you would overwhelm, I think, that neighborhood with the car traffic and individuals there, that all of a sudden you got this park there, but nowhere to park your car or whatnot. Or now you're pulling out a lot of the land to put in a parking lot. I mean, I'm looking at that footprint, and that thing's huge. It's bigger than I thought. And so I think,
that's a complex.
That's a complex.
Right, and I get that, and that's why I'm saying, if you guys were trying to tie and keep the two together, I think you would just overwhelm Southside Park, that's my opinion, with inundation of the baseball field and Kellen's Kingdom, and then try to get people down to that area, you'd inundate that neighborhood with a huge volume of traffic.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jack.
That was my problem with Southside Park. I think we probably should open it up a little bit more, separate them, that type of thing.
Should we just, if you need to start applying for grants, I think, should we commit tonight? I think it's a great idea. I've had lots of positive feedback after and I know I told Mike, Joel, you could get us land down by DMAC, right? For the ballpark? And then Kellen's Kingdom could be in Grand Park and the ball field could, I think parking, looking at that picture in Sioux City, even though it's I think parking is critical.
Right.
And parking is also expensive. And so I think we need to be strategic in where we place it. But if you need us to say we're behind it in order to apply for grants, is that what you're looking for tonight? And then we'll worry about locations, and then you can get your project going, and we'll do the best we can.
Yeah, right, I agree. I just want to make sure that this isn't just, that there's some fluidity to the projects, that they're not so stuck together that we have to have them together both next door to each other, that if one is in one part of town and one is in the other, because we just don't have the space quite laid out, if that's okay.
I love that the conversations about where we have it, not if we need this, or if this is something that Carol needs, or if this is something Carol will support. I think that, to me, is the neatest part about Carol. That's been what's awesome for my family, is I have kids with disabilities, and what's awesome to see the response to their project already. And I know that that's not the debate, and that's what's great. I think we're committed to working really, really hard to see where these things should come in, how they should come phased in, and we want to make sure we do it right for Carol. So as long as you guys are committed to us doing the project and moving forward, we'll help working with Parks and Rec and the other stakeholders involved to make sure we have a good location for it. I think 2 years ago, there was 2 Miracle Fields in Iowa. Now there's 9 projects in the works. We would be the 10th. And I think we have a real opportunity where nothing's between Ames and Sioux City, as John said, that we could be a real regional hub for this, and we could be ahead of other communities that also be looking at projects like this down the road, who might have other funding opportunities for gambling in their backyard. I think it would be great for our community to be able to jump on this quickly and move quickly, and that's why when we talk about funding later, I know that's a future conversation. Anything the city can do to help us move it along quicker, I think puts us in that regional help spot, shows what Carroll's all about, what values we have.
You look at just the community of Carroll, we've had New Hope Village here for decades. I mean, it's not that our community doesn't care. Those people are very accepted wherever they are. Many of them are very hard workers, and I see a lot of them. So to see something like this, I don't have a problem with it. I just want assurances from you guys that it's still a fluid project, and we're not going to get bogged down and trying to. This is absolutely.
The two do not need to be in the same location.
Okay.
But whenever you see a Miracle Park,
right,
you see an all-inclusive playground with it. But that's not to say that Carroll can't have 2 all-inclusive playgrounds. My husband and I would like to go to whoever in the government and say, well, your handicap accessible guidelines aren't usable, so let's make them usable. Whether it's a bathroom stall that you can't change a child in, or it's a playground that they can't play in. I mean, Fairview Elementary just put new parks in, and there's no, my son can't use any, and he's there 9 months out of the year. And I understand the not thinking about it until you start bringing it up, and it's like, oh yeah, why isn't this already here? So we have no problem whether it's applying for extra grants and raising the money to put a second all-inclusive playground in Carroll. So if Kellen's Kingdom goes in at Grand Park or wherever, that's suited, then Miracle Park goes in, and then we raise the money for the playground to come with that.
I just didn't want to see any more delay on. I kind of felt bad because we did 3 months already, and construction season. We get that, and we all understand that. Now at this time it's probably a little late, but I didn't want to delay you guys any more than what you already had.
It would be neat to do a groundbreaking and have Kellen's Kingdom in so that come the great first day of spring, kids are out there using it and, you know, and it's good to go. I mean, we have the money and the money's actually still coming in. So
Right.
it's, you know, it's been amazing, and I really truly believe that Miracle Park would be the same way.
Give more
So-
inspiration to that Miracle Field, you know, that's what I see, so.
One question or one concern I've had, and I almost feel bad asking this after your comment there about, you guys are all in support, but I look at the list of all the communities that this has been started in already, and I look at the size of those communities versus the size of Carroll, and that concerns me just a little bit, that I think this is a great project, but is this something that we can sustain, both in use and also just through upkeep and everything else? I have no idea what it would cost. I'm assuming that's like a rubberized surface per se?
Yes.
And fairly big thing, so I just don't know what the associated residual costs will be with it.
Yeah, and we can provide the council and plan to a breakdown of those expenses, because the surfacing is one of the bigger expenses that go along with it. But to your point on usage, Mayor Jensen had mentioned New Hope. There's also Opportunity Living in Lake City, where I'm from, that has a very large sect of people. Currently in each of the schools, there's about 30 kids with disabilities, was the projection we got. So there's 60 there just from our school district. And if you think about that and we overlay it to all the school districts in 100 miles, you know, that the average participant rate is 150 kids per league. At the average, most are over 200. And then you're adding in buddies. So you're talking about 400 just participants every Saturday for 6 to 8 weeks, twice a year, in addition to grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters coming to watch these kids participate and use this equipment. So I don't know if that gives you a little bit more scope as far as usage goes. Expenses is something that we need to do some exploration with. You know, I guess, I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but we're here and we're committed to bring this here one way or the other. So.
And being Miracle League affiliated, the Miracle League itself does a lot to help. I mean, they you know, it'll be the Miracle League of Carroll, and they get your name out there. They help, you know, if somebody's moving here and say their kid used to be a part of it, or they're looking for, you know, what is an activity my son can do with disabilities, or my kid can do disabilities, the Miracle League will help get them to us as well. There's free websites that are offered. It's all in this big packet of stuff that we just got Saturday, but I had the chance to look through it, and I think that getting the kids here, like my husband and I talked, when we got Kellen's diagnosis, our dream of Kellen being able to play baseball, basketball, all that, it completely changed. So if you tell me that I live in Harlan and I can drive to Carroll on a Saturday for my son to play baseball, I'm there. So I don't think that getting the kids here is going to be a problem, because you just opened up a whole new world of hope and just this being a regular little kid or an adult.
Just being a human being.
Yes, I mean, to this area.
And to touch on more specifically on your question, I mean, obviously, Mary Jensen brought it up, we've had New Hope in town for 4 years. This seems like a natural fit. We've involved them in the community, whether they're cleaning businesses or they're living in houses. So it seems a natural fit, and I know you're all in agreement there. One of the things that Miracle Fields did tell us is that there's only 3 companies that can lay this field down. So they've addressed some of these concerns. Average lifespan on this field is about 15 years. There's things that we know going into this. Other than that, you know, the field, one of the beauties of the field is that there isn't a whole lot of maintenance to it, since it is rubber, you're not doing things like that. Obviously, there's a scoreboard and things like that, normal maintenance items. But the reality of it is it's not, when you associate the costs of mowing the field, taking care of all that stuff, the associated costs aren't that great when this field takes care of itself and it has a shelf life of about 15 years. And that's something that the Miracle League does a very good job of letting us know, you know, what to expect. So when we get to this point, we can, you know, come up with some, you know, show you some figures and some things that they're showing us to make sure, because it does, you know, that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, wow, these huge cities have one, how can we have one? But then when you start reading into it and finding that out, and they do, there is a charge for this, you know, this isn't a free, you know, just bring your kids and play. There's a a fee for playing and things like that. So you generate some income that way to kind of help with the field also.
Yeah. And I would just add, I think that's what makes this so exciting for us too, is that we are a small town and able to do something like this, and we think it'll draw from a large, best case scenarios, we have 150 to 200 families with buddies. Every weekend, worst case scenarios, we have 25 to 30 buddies and family. I mean, I still think we have a great, either way, I think it's a great win for Carroll. It makes us look like we want to be, and the regional draw is important. When you go into a town like Ankeny or Council Bluffs, and this park is really special, and you get a special feeling when you're there, to come into a small town where that happens, I can't imagine what that feeling is. And that's one of the things that excited us about the smaller parks, is we were, envisioned this as the greatest small park in Iowa, and we thought that was magical. The same reason people love the small park and they go to Southside over other parks, it's the same reason we're excited about those little parks. And I think that could be something really, really unique, especially when they have to go into Carroll, experience Carroll, drive through a neighborhood to get there. I think that's important. But,
If anybody's penned it, if they build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if this thing could go for $470,000 as is, all this beautiful thing. I just want to know.
The city has a rock climbing wall,
It was 1.1 million.
That's what that was? Great. I'm glad to know how much that was. I knew. I want to just know, how do we have this figure? Did
that include the concession stand? That was
the 470, I just want to know what's included in that estimate. What's everything?
That's the board surface, that's the dugouts, that's the fencing, that's the
Servicing.
scoreboard, that is the, PA system that you use for
Okay.
announcing, it's the bleachers.
It includes the bleachers.
And that's the average price of all of Miracle Parks that they've had in the last how many years.
Okay.
The port service chews up, what is it, about 160,000 of it, should they say?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we
and
have the
then
option of going to
the
local
balance is-
businesses and say, okay,
Yeah.
does the local lumber company want to donate the materials for the dugouts? Do they want, so that price is, since the only thing we have to do through Miracle League is get that poured surface, we would be able to reach out to local businesses and surrounding communities and say, okay, so we want a scoreboard, okay, we need 4 people to donate $10,000 and your name's on this scoreboard.
Well, I know
We can do those things that will help with that price.
They have these, the dugouts are sponsored on here,
Those
which is
are now.
interesting. So that's all I needed to know, is just what 470 gets you. If it's
Think how nice it
the,
would be to have like an entire pharmacy on one.
One other thing I will throw out is, there currently isn't a Miracle League World Series. And particularly in Iowa, if there's 9 fields, we make 10, what a great attraction. Something to get behind, so.
Very good.
Next College World Series.
There you go.
Close to Omaha.
This is on my list for our planning session come Thursday. I'm very interested in supporting this to draw it forward and see how we can progress with fundraising and grants, et cetera.
So it makes me feel a lot better that we don't want to hold up Kellen's Kingdom with it. 'Cause
Yeah,
that was my initial concern.
That was my
is
concern. I didn't want to.
It's a great idea, but.
Yeah, okay, very good.
So,
Do you need any more information for Thursday night from me?
This is the full breakdown of the figures. You have nothing else.
No, John has all that
We could
detail.
inundate you with data.
Maybe just give that to Jack and.
Yeah, we
1,500 pages if you want it.
Right.
Jack will bring a 2-wheel cart
Top
down
of the
the
other.
street,
Okay.
loaded up.
He'll pick it up and bring it over. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank
Thank you,
you.
John.
Then I guess entertain a motion to allow the city staff and volunteers to proceed with grants and donations for a Miracle League baseball field in Carroll, Iowa.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Thank you. I trust everyone's read the committee reports. I have no comments. Any comments from the city council? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
We are adjourned.